Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing on with quote love unquote by New Amsterdam, and we are up to chapter 4. At a certain point, there are more clothes strewn over Kirishima's bed and across his floor than are left in his dresser and closet. He scowls down at his options, pulls on a shirt, and then runs from his bedroom back to the living room. Well, what about this? Eijiro and Kaminari, sitting together on the couch with their eyes glued on the TV, don't bother looking up at him. Eijiro's legs are draped over the coffee table, her back flat against the couch cushions. Kaminari hugs his knees against his chest, and he sits forward on the couch, teeth clenched in anticipation as he watches the screen. Around them, empty takeout boxes and ice cream cartons litter the floor and end tables. Guys! Kirishima insists. Shh! Kaminari hisses at him. This is the good part. Kirishima glances at the TV, purses his lips, and sighs. On the coffee table, pushed aside so Eijiro can use her makeshift footrest, are boxed sets of Blu-rays. Midoriya Izuku, Uraraka Ochako, Todoroki Shoto, and Bakugou Katsuki are printed across the various boxes, along with the embossed golden logo of UA and the season number 1 through 5. On the screen, Uraraka's character, Ayane, is standing in the rain, biting down on her lower lip to keep from crying. Her face is a blotchy red, etched with determination, even as the rain soaks through her school uniform and leaves her shivering. As they watch, a shadow falls over Ayane, and Bakugou's character, Nobuhiko, appears at her side holding a bright red umbrella that provides the only spot of color in an otherwise gray-washed scene. In the many times that Kirishima has rewatched this episode, his heart always skips a beat during this scene. Ayane and Nobuhiko had interacted only barely in the first season, usually in tension over Nobuhiko's treatment of Midoriya's character Daiki, but in this season, they'd had more and more scenes that didn't involve Daiki at all. Usually, Kirishima loves this episode, but watching it now, he feels something uncomfortable curl in the pit of his stomach. The cameras are careful not to focus on Nobuhiko's face for the majority of the scene, only wide shots of his silhouette, his hands holding out the umbrella, the way the rain plasters his pale hair to the back of his neck. But Kirishima knows what's coming next. As Ayane looks up, startled by the appearance of the umbrella, the camera follows her gaze, and then the shot finally lands on Nobuhiko's face, guarded as it always is, but eyes soft with concern rather than sharp with derision. The first real sign of compassion that UA's viewers saw from Nobuhiko or Bakugou Katsuki. Kirishima physically turns his head away from the TV and clears his throat. A little help here? The credits begin rolling on the screen a moment later, and Eijiro looks up at Kirishima only to shrug. I really don't see how this outfit is any different from the last 5. Which means it still sucks, Kaminari says without looking up. Kirishima glances down at his glaringly bright red shirt and denim shorts. Not anyone's definition of fancy or stylish, but he's quickly running out of options. He groans and runs a hand through his hair, which he hasn't had the chance to gel up yet. What am I supposed to do then? Go shopping? Kaminari suggests. I've only got 20 minutes! Kirishima speaks as he sees Eijiro reaching for the remote to turn on the next episode of UA. Stop that! We're doing research, Eijiro says matter-of-factly, propping herself up on her hands so that she can pull herself into a proper seated position. You go out on your date and we'll keep watching your boyfriend's show. It's not even a real date, Kirishima mutters, shifting from one foot to the other. And I let you borrow my Blu-rays. Don't ignore me now. I still don't get what they're going to do with Daiki now that Ayane's into Nobuhiko, Kaminari says, stroking his chin thoughtfully. I really thought they were going for the childhood friends to lovers thing. Yeah, for a main character, his love life is all over the place, Eijiro says. Kirishima chokes, momentarily distracted from his fashion dilemma. Wait, he says, you don't know? Jiro and Kaminari turn to him in unison. No. Kirishima holds back a laugh and says, shit, I really have to get ready. Just don't watch season 4 without me, got it? What are you doing, Kirishima? We're going to be late. Ashido walks in carrying a designer shopping bag, already dressed in a zebra print shirt dress and purple tights. She glances at the TV and sighs. Not you guys too. I already had to put up with 5 years of watching every episode 10 times. Kirishima rounds on her, slightly affronted. No one was making you watch with me. Enough of that, she says, pushing the bags into Kirishima's hands, then nudging him back towards his bedroom. Forget your fictional boyfriend. You have to deal with your real one. Or your real fake one? Whatever. Just go get dressed before the car gets here. Jiro and Kaminari are snickering behind their hands, but they hush up quick as Yue's theme song starts. Kirishima glances back at the screen just once, sees Bakugou as Nobuhiko staring off into the distance as a bittersweet melody plays, and then he bolts to his room. Time passes. Ashido, as it turns out, is a godsend. She must have realized the deficiencies in Kirishima's wardrobe long before he had, because her rescue option is perfect. By the time he gets a text that the car is waiting for them downstairs, Kirishima is ready and looks good enough not to embarrass himself. The Sun Eater t-shirt is his, bought at a concert almost 3 years ago, but the black jeans are new, more fitted than he'd buy for himself, and the denim jacket was probably much more expensive than its fraying sleeves indicate. He'll have to ask Ashido and pay her back. Honestly, including Ashido in his plan was almost entirely selfish. If he's going to go through with this, he can't help feeling like he's a fish out of water. Every time he enters Bakugou's world, he's thrown off balance and can't act like himself. And as Kaminari had pointed out, Kirishima's not good at pretending. Come on, Ashido says, stamping her foot as she ushers him out the door. She probably never worries about her own appearance, having long since mastered her particular style of animal prints and neon colors. But there is a flush riding high on her cheeks today. She might actually be nervous. The car waiting for them isn't the same one that had taken Bakugou and Kirishima to the premiere. Instead, it's a sleek silver Acura. Expensive, but much less conspicuous. Sero rolls down the window from the driver's seat and waves. Hey, you two. He's smiling from ear to ear. The sleeves of his shirt are rolled up to his elbows. Thankfully, he's not dressed like a junior executive today. It makes him seem like Sero again, and not someone who belongs to another world. Kirishima and Ashido slide into the back, and that's when Kirishima notices Bakugou sitting in the passenger seat. He doesn't turn around to acknowledge them. Ashido, however, has no fear of death. She leans forward and jabs Bakugou in the shoulder. Hey, we haven't met before.
So?
He leans away from her, and in the rearview mirror, Kirishima can see the scowl that etches across his face. So, hi, I'm Ashido. It's nice to...
I don't care,
Bakugou says. Oi, Sero says mildly. Don't be rude.
I'm not the one dragging you along on my fucking high school reunion.
Bakugou hisses from between clenched teeth. Kirishima can't help but laugh at that. Are you feeling left out? Bakugou finally turns around, glaring fiercely.
You! Shut up! This is all your fault!
Nice to see you too, sweetheart, Kirishima says dryly. Bakugou visibly shudders.
Do you fucking see any cameras here? Don't call me that bullshit.
No one's going to believe that one anyway, Sero says as he pulls onto the main road. Bakugou's not exactly sweet, and we're still trying to figure out if he has a heart.
Fuck you, soy sauce,
Bakugou mutters murderously. Anyway, you're wrong, Ashido tells him.
Huh?
We didn't go to high school together, Ashido says matter-of-factly. I had almost graduated when my first single came out, and Sero didn't start interning with the agency until after. Isn't that right? Sero nods. We were 18 when we started dating.
I didn't ask.
Bakugou looks like he's about to bang his head against the dashboard for emphasis. Then he turns back to Kirishima.
You don't think they're being fucking weird, just hanging out with us when they used to date?
Ashido rolls her eyes. It's not like we hate each other now or something. We just didn't work out. That's all. And anyway, maybe you two should be taking notes. Unless you plan on faking this forever, someday you'll have to act like exes too. The thought hadn't occurred to Kirishima before, though now that he realizes it, should have. Of course he and Bakugou aren't going to pretend forever. A couple of months, Sero had said. Someday, this is going to end and Bakugou is going to be his fake ex-boyfriend. The idea sits uncomfortably with him for the rest of the car ride. Time passes. No matter how insistent he'd been when he'd brought up the idea, Kirishima is still surprised that Bakugou actually agreed to come, especially the way he'd suggested it. If we're going to fool people into thinking we're dating, we can't just show up in public together all the time and pretend like we're close. You're going to have to actually spend time with me. But Bakugou, even though he looked unhappy about it, had at least agreed that Kirishima's suggestion was a logical one. They didn't know each other well enough to pull this off, and so they'd have to fix that. Kirishima had roped in Ashido for selfish reasons, then asked Sero to come along to keep the balance and because he knows Bakugou best. On his suggestion, they end up back at Sugar Rush.
What the fuck are we doing here?
Bakugou asks as they get out of the car. Today, he isn't wearing designer clothes or fancy sunglasses. Instead, he slouches in his black t-shirt with a white skull printed across it, his black pants sagging as he shoves his hands into his pockets. It's a pretty classic date, you know, Ashido says, briefly moving to walk beside Bakugou. Again, she seems entirely impervious to the waves of hostility radiating off him. You know, a cooking class. Bakugou stops mid-step, shoulders hunching as he turns away from Ashido to glare daggers at Sero.
You goddamn traitor!
Time passes. Don't be mad at Sero, Kirishima says for the 10th time as they find their way to Sugar Rush's kitchen classroom. I was the one who asked him for suggestions.
And he was the one who sang like a fucking canary,
Bakugou says, still hunched over and looking at the ground. They've come around the side of the building to an entrance separate from the cafes. Here, the decor is still yellow and joyful, but instead of cozy booths and tables, the space is made up of half a dozen cooking islands arranged in straight rows. At the front of the room is a large counter, and behind it stands Sato Rikido himself, a man who looks more like a pro wrestler than a professional chef, but Kirishima isn't going to judge. Sato is just as friendly as he'd been at Hagakure's party. He's unbelievably tall with spiky brown hair and impressively muscled arms visible past the short sleeves of his chef's coat. After he greets Kirishima, Sero, and Ashido, he looks over at Bakugou with a funny smile playing at his lips.
You know, when Sero called me, I didn't think you'd actually show. What's that supposed to mean?
Bakugou asks, voice gruff and impatient. He's eyeing the sleek white cooking appliances like they might be a robot army in disguise.
I don't know.
Sato says easily, as though it doesn't really matter to him one way or the other.
I guess I just never imagined you actually going on a date like this.
Bakugou's face may well have been made of stone. He stomps across the room, grabs Kirishima by the wrist, and tugs him over to one of the kitchen islands.
Would I fucking be here if it wasn't a date?
Kirishima isn't sure what to do. As far as he knows, only Sero and the other members of Riot know that he and Bakugou aren't dating. But he'd meant for this to be something casual and private, a place where he and Bakugou wouldn't have to put on a show. Sero had suggested Sato's ridiculously expensive private cooking classes, and Kirishima had trusted his judgment enough to go along. But if they had to put on an act for Sato the whole time, doesn't that defeat the whole point? Then Sato starts to laugh, warm and good-natured.
Oh, thank God you're being normal. I'm always fucking normal.
Bakugou growls at him.
In those pictures you were all hard eyes,
Sato tells him.
I thought you were possessed or something.
Bakugou fixes Sato with another glare.
Are you going to teach us to cook something or what? Oh, right,
Sato says with another laugh.
Give me a second, then we'll get started.
Kirishima, standing next to Bakugou at the counter, has a moment to look him over as Ashido and Sero get situated at a different island across the aisle from them. So, you and Sato are friends, then? Bakugou looks up at him with a furrowed brow.
No.
But he, knows you?
Everyone fucking knows me, shitty hair. You knew who I was before we'd even met.
Kirishima, he reminds Bakugou, since he thought they'd moved past the I can't call you by your actual name thing. And you know what I mean. He knows you enough to know when you're acting differently. That's a big deal, isn't it?
He isn't the worst person I have to be around,
Bakugou says blandly, as though that explains it.
All right,
Sato calls out in a booming voice, even though the four of them are at the first row of counters and he's only a couple meters away.
Who's ready to make some macarons?
Bakugou jabs an accusing finger at Kirishima.
You said cooking. This is baking.
Baking is cooking, Kirishima says, honestly baffled. What does it matter anyway?
No, it isn't.
Bakugou snaps. Kirishima sighs. Maybe just stop looking at things to be unhappy about and try enjoying yourself. Bakugou doesn't say anything in response. Sato is calling out instructions and passing out trays of ingredients, perfectly measured bowls of sugar and almond flour and whatever the hell cream of tartar is. Sero and Ashido are laughing as they take their own set of ingredients, leaning across from each other and talking non-stop. At least for them, this won't be like pulling teeth. Hey, Kirishima says, you think we can make better macarons than those two? Bakugou gives him a look that says, I know exactly what you're doing and I'm not going to fall for it. But then something other than his disdain for Kirishima must win out, because a fierce smile cuts across his face.
We're gonna crush 'em,
he promises. Time passes. Kirishima had engineered this outing to get to know Bakugou better, so in the most technical sense, it's a success. He learns that Bakugou's competitive streak is enough to motivate him no matter what his mood. He learns that Bakugou is a control freak when it comes to baking, or maybe anything. He learns that Bakugou does not trust him to mix a bowl of ingredients.
You're not doing it right,
Bakugou snaps at him. Kirishima, holding a whisk poised over a bowl of flour and sugar, blinks in confusion. There's no way to mix wrong. Bakugou clicks his tongue against his teeth, coming up behind Kirishima and placing one hand over his. With rough movements, he corrects the angle that Kirishima is holding the whisk at, then forces him through a rhythm of mixing 2 or 3 times until he steps away, trusting Kirishima to do the rest on his own. It's a simple thing, a moment, barely more than a few seconds. But when Bakugou moves away, Kirishima can still feel the pressure of his grip, the heat of his body. It was a moment of closeness, but it'd been natural instead of staged.
Why did you stop?
Bakugou demands. Kirishima shakes his head, trying to break through his reverie. What? Bakugou clicks his tongue again, grabbing the bowl and whisk out of Kirishima's hands.
You're fucking useless.
As Bakugou goes through the next few steps, Kirishima leans his chin against the counter and looks up at him. So, you like cooking? Bakugou barely looks up as he pushes the mixture through a sieve.
I'm good at cooking,
he says, as though it's something different. I wouldn't have guessed, Kirishima admits. I mean, I've read a lot of your interviews in magazines, but you've never mentioned it. Bakugou makes another one of those impatient, slightly disgusted noises.
Why would I tell a shitty magazine anything real?
Kirishima supposes he can't argue with that. After all, his own relationship with Bakugou is a farce for the media. But does that mean nothing he knows about Bakugou is real? What else do you like? Kirishima asks.
When idiots with obnoxious hair know when to shut up.
Bakugou mutters, smacking the sieve with a spatula. Kirishima huffs. What is it with you and my hair, anyway?
I wasn't expecting it,
Bakugou says under his breath, almost to himself. Then he turns around and gestures at the ingredients spread out over the counter.
Are you going to help or what?
Now you want my help? Kirishima says teasingly, shaking his head, but he's reminded of an earlier conversation when something else Bakugou had said stuck out to him. Hey, before you said, have you really been to one of our concerts? Bakugou's hands stop their methodical movement through the steps of the recipe, and it takes him a moment to respond. In that moment, Kirishima thinks that Bakugou is going to pretend like he hasn't heard.
I went,
Bakugou says finally.
But not with Hagakure. It was a few weeks ago when Present Mike started his string of shows here.
Wait, you were at our opening night? How did I not know that? I don't think any of us, no one told me you were there. Kirishima can barely remember that night. He was so high on adrenaline and endorphins and nerves. Did he play well? Did he embarrass himself? Where had Bakugou been in the crowd? How could he have been there and gone unnoticed?
Oi, Kirishima,
Bakugou says, jabbing him in the side with an elbow.
Don't go making a big deal out of it. And obviously, you didn't know I was there, because when people know I'm somewhere, it becomes a big fucking deal. I just wanted to go and listen to some music. Don't freak the fuck out about it.
That makes sense, Kirishima supposes. And in a way, it was nice of Bakugou not to make his own presence at the concert a big deal and steal the thunder of their opening night. But that still leaves Kirishima with one question. Did you like it?
What?
Bakugou blinks at him. Our music. My songs. Did you like the concert? Bakugou purses his lips and focuses on very violently cracking an egg and then separating it into the mixing bowl.
It was fucking fine,
he says at length. What? Kirishima yelps. No, it was awesome. Come on.
If it was awesome, I would have said so.
Bakugou yells back at him. No, you wouldn't have, Kirishima insists. You say everything sucks anyway. And if you didn't think it was awesome, you would have come again. If I know you're there, I'll blow your mind this time. I promise. That's not a bad idea, Sero calls out from across the aisle. I mean, if we want to make a thing of it.
Fuck off,
Bakugou says to no one in particular. He picks up another small bowl after he finishes cracking eggs, doing his best to ignore Kirishima. Say you'll come, please? He really doesn't think he'll be able to live with himself if the only time Bakugou ever hears his music has already come and gone. He didn't even know it was happening. It might have been his only chance to impress Bakugou, to show him that he actually does have skills and talent.
Shut up!
Bakugou snaps. His voice is so loud, it belies how gently he's nudging the ingredients into the mixing bowl. Come on, Bakugou, just say so. It'll be great. I can dedicate a song to you as my boyfriend. That last part he says really without thinking about it. Anything to make Bakugou come again. Bakugou jerks back so suddenly that the bowls on the counter all rattle, and then he looks at Kirishima with an enraged fire shining in his eyes.
If you make me drop this fucking mixture we've been working on, I will murder you,
he says without taking a breath.
And how are you going to dedicate a song when you're not even near a mic?
Kirishima wonders for a moment why Bakugou was paying enough attention to notice that. It's not like his voice is in any of their songs. Ashido's the singer, and her voice is amazing. But Bakugou had picked out the fact that Kirishima doesn't typically speak at all during their shows. But he's not about to back down. Was that a challenge? Fine. When you come, I'll talk to the crowd, and I'll tell them we're playing a song just for you.
I didn't say I'd... Alright, guys.
Sato calls out, clapping his hands together.
Let's add some flavor and colors, okay? What are you guys thinking?
Red! Kirishima calls out on instinct at the same moment that Bakugou snaps.
Orange.
They turn to look at each other, each looking affronted. But then Kirishima starts to smile at the fierce look in Bakugou's eyes. He's having fun. Kirishima decides, even if he won't admit it. Time passes. The macarons end up being a mix of red and orange, flavored like raspberry and honey and apricot and black tea. Kirishima would never have thought to add any of those flavors together, but he trusts that Sato knows what he's doing. They spend the better part of 3 hours cooking, and then they get to pack their small macarons into white and yellow striped Sugar Rush boxes. Bakugou reaches over and grabs one of Sero's chocolate macarons, biting into it. Then he scoffs.
Ours win.
He decides. Not everyone can be a secret baking genius, Ashido says, grabbing one of their raspberry macarons and munching on it. Ugh, these are so good. I hate you. Should we head out? Sero asks. I can drop you two off, and then I've got to figure out when I can fit a concert into this guy's schedule.
I never agreed to that.
Bakugou mutters. Sero says, shaking his head. They say their goodbyes to Sato and head back towards the entrance, but just before they leave the building, Kirishima waves Sero and Ashido ahead. Go on, he says, motioning for Bakugou to stay back. I just want to talk about something. When Ashido and Sero have gone on, Kirishima turns to Bakugou with a thoughtful expression.
What?
Bakugou says, sounding unduly harassed. I just wanted to say thanks for agreeing to come, Kirishima says, smiling in a way that he hopes is reassuring. I mean, I know this wasn't part of the deal, but I'm happy we did this. Bakugou crosses his arms over his chest.
You're so weird.
Kirishima notes his posture, the way he's trying to keep the world at bay, with every hard glare and unfriendly gesture. Then he leans closer to Bakugou's space. You know, we're going to have to get better at this, he says, resting one hand on the wall near Bakugou's head. In that moment, he realizes he's mimicking what Bakugou had done to him that first night they'd met. Bakugou glares. There's a color rising on his cheeks.
Better at what?
Kirishima hums thoughtfully. You know, this. Being close together. You were fine before when we were cooking and you weren't thinking about it. But even in front of the camera at the premiere, you kept staring at me like I make you nervous or something.
You're the nervous one.
Bakugou snaps. But he makes no move to get away. Kirishima's smile deepens. Yeah, but I am. I've never done something like this before.
I'm not nervous.
Bakugou reiterates, but he still makes no move to get away from Kirishima. There's something familiar about his expression now, the way he stares straight ahead, unwilling to show weakness by looking away. But his eyes aren't narrowed and angry. They're wide and open and searching. His lips are slightly parted, his pale skin still flushed, his brows drawn together slightly, like he's worried over something or holding something back. What's he thinking? Kirishima can never be sure, but oh, he wants to know.
Let's just go,
Bakugou says finally. He brushes aside Kirishima's arm and stalks off, looking nothing like the confident magnetic movie star as he hunches over and keeps his striped pastry box tucked under one arm. But even without that magnetic pull, Kirishima still feels a pang watching Bakugou walk away from him. Time passes. 2 days later, the 4 members of Riot have managed to eat through every macaron that Kirishima and Ashido had brought home. Now, all of them sit scrunched together on the couch, deep into UA's 4th season. On the screen, Midoriya's character Daiki is running down the street, chest heaving as he forces his legs to keep moving. But he isn't successful because someone grabs him by the arm and turns him around. Todoroki's character, Yuki. Daiki looks up in shock, desperately brushing the tears out of his eyes with the back of his hand. Yuki looks at Daiki with an equal amount of emotion, evident in the tense set of his jaw and the pleading look in his eyes. "I'm sorry," Yuki says. "I don't know what I did to upset you, but I'm so sorry." "Don't apologize to me," Daiki says, wrenching himself out of Yuki's grasp. "Just please don't. Don't you get it?" "No," Yuki says honestly. I thought you'd return my feelings." And Daiki doesn't respond for a long moment. Instead, he stares up at Yuki, struck dumb by the confession. He stares straight ahead, his eyes wide and searching. His lips part slightly as a flush rises in his skin, and then his brows draw together, like he's worried over something or trying to hold something back. "Yuki," he says just before the credits roll. "What?" Jiro screeches, picking up a pillow and throwing it at the TV. "They actually went there? I don't even believe it." "You didn't know?" Ashido asks. "Don't you remember? It was all over the media forever. How UA dared to make good on all their teasing. It was a big deal at the time." "Is this why you guys like this show so much?" Jiro asks, turning to Kirishima. "Because there are actually gay characters." Ashido rolls her eyes. Kirishima was having a crisis over this show long before this episode aired. Kaminari starts laughing, and soon Jiro joins in. It's a good-natured, warm sort of laughter, but even if Kirishima were paying attention to it, he wouldn't be insulted by their teasing. But he's not listening. He barely hears what they're saying. He's too busy wondering why Midoriya's character had worn an expression that looked so much like Bakugou's. It's an uncanny similarity, too exact to ignore. But Kirishima has no idea what it means. All right, friends, thank you so much for joining me for this chapter. This chapter's song is Stuck on You by New Politics. And I absolutely love this song. It's really good. If you've never heard it, I strongly suggest it. It's a good one. It's definitely one that always makes me want to come back and read this series when I hear it. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me for chapter 4. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. I think their little baking date is super cute. And I hope you guys will come back and join me for the next video, which will be chapter 5. I'll see you next time.